if you're on social media, chances are you get a decent to fair amount of your news there, especially breaking news, right? But the problem is sometimes the aggregator outlets and accounts, they take something completely out of context and just to make you believe something for clicks and whatnot. Now, this applies to probably national media as well as like football media, but I do have a problem here. So we obviously do this channel for clicks and likes and views too. I mean, we fully admit that, right? And it's part of the game. But what we do is that we actually like to give you the real facts, and then get it right, and then we make jokes about barbecue, and that's what she said and whatnot. So we wanted to do that because the Anthony Harris situation. Now, if you saw some posts, which I did late last night, and it was like, oh, well, if you saw some of the Anthony Harris posts, like, well, Anthony Harris is gone. He is Garfunkeled. I guess safety is a need in the draft, that whole thing. But then I went to the source material, and I was like, wait a minute. That's not what happened at all. But we'll get into that. All right, so it all stemmed from Darren Doogie Wolfson on his podcast, The Scoop. Our guy, Doogie, is awesome. So this is exactly what he said. Quote. So last week, trending toward a long-term extension, Anthony Harris and the Vikings. Fast forward 5 days, negotiations didn't go quite so well latter part of the week. At that point, I would say the trade is back on the table. Could get moved on draft weekend. I think the three scenarios: long-term deal, trade, or he just plays out the season on the franchise tag. I think playing out the season on the franchise tag is off the table, end quote. So that's what he said. He also called the situation fluid. Also, he named the Giants as a team that potentially has kicked the tires on Anthony Harris as well. So from that entire statement, that just sounds like negotiation. Yeah, that just sounds like, oh, the ball is in your court now, as opposed to, no, we are done here. Oh, either the Vikings, for initially, if you looked at some of the posts, it was like, oh, either the Vikings or Anthony Harris and his agency, they're like, we're taking our ball and going home. Screw you guys, we're going home, right? So like we said, why do things leak? Why do things leak during negotiations? Because they only leak when one side thinks that the other side is being unreasonable. That's when all that happens, whether it be the team. Generally, it's not the team. I mean, the Vikings are... they're like the KGB. It's like Fort Knox. Very little actually leaks out of there. I mean, Rick Spielman, iron fist, right? But I mean, agencies, they leak things all the time, right? Especially as they're trying to do right by their clients. That's a prerogative of respect there, right? But when things are quiet, like they were earlier with Anthony Harris and the Vikings, things are going well. You don't necessarily want to upset the apple cart by leaking to the media. It's like, oh, hey, things are going really well. They're treating us really great, all that other stuff. So whichever side leaked to Doogie, I do err on the side of the agent. They see that the other side is being obstinate. They're not moving. They're being obtuse, to use a word from Shawshank Redemption. And now they have to negotiate through the media. They have to negotiate through the fans, through the court of public opinion, which is very effective, by the way. Right? So obviously, they would love an extension for Anthony Harris. Anthony Harris wants to be here. I mean, the Vikings can make some cap room to do so, as well as with such an overhaul in the secondary, it would be nice to keep 41 in purple, right? And likely, they're fighting over total money. They're fighting over guarantees for sure, as well as where the guarantees are. So what Spielman and Brzezinski love to do, they'll front-loading deals, right? So a lot of guaranteed money, a lot of the dead cap is early on in some of these contracts. And the best way for a player to be assured of some long-term stability is to have some guaranteed money, have some of that dead cap later on through the deal. So guaranteed money, get that money either way, as well as dead cap, less likely that they're going to cut you because they don't want to absorb all that dead money onto their cap, which means you're going to be able to be on the roster, which means you'll get your roster pay, all that other stuff, good to go for another season, right? And also, offset language. Let's say we cut you with some guaranteed money left on your deal and you sign somewhere else. Now, do you get to double dip the chip, or do we get to offset that with whatever you signed with the other team? Save us a little bit of money, that whole thing. I mean, teams are sticklers for that, right? I mean, that's why Joey Bosa held out for so long after being the number 3 overall pick with the Chargers back in the day. Go look that up. But if the Vikings do draw a line in the sand and be like, hey, this is what we're offering. We're not offering a penny more. This is the structure that we're going to give you. Take it or leave it. If they leave it, then it's back on again. And frankly, the Vikings should have all options on the table. But as Doogie said, playing the year out on the tag, we also thought that was probably the least likely scenario as well. I think it's actually more likely that they would pull the tag and let him be a free agent, get that third round compensatory pick next year, as opposed to having him play on the tag at $11.44 million, and then just hit all this entire cycle again next offseason when he's a free agent again. Do you tag him again at a 20% raise, and with the inflation of the cap? Probably not, but our inflation of the franchise tag, nailed it. But like I said, if the Vikings draw a line in the sand and you go to the draft, and say a team wants a safety, and during the draft they brick out on Delpit or McKinney, Winfield, Chin, maybe the board breaks a different way, they go a different direction, etc. I mean, do they circle back to the Vikings? Do they, Anthony Harris is still there. We have the cap space. He's relatively young. He's up and coming. He's a ball hawk on the back end of free safety. Do we offer a 2 to the Vikings? Do we offer an early 3 to the Vikings? Because like I said, they have to do better than a 2021 back end of the third round compensatory pick, which is likely what the Vikings will be in line for if Anthony Harris leaves an open free agency and signs somewhere else this year if they pull the tag. So there you go. Or maybe Washington gets back on the horn. All right, Trent Williams for Anthony Harris. We'll pair up Anthony Harris with Landon Collins, make them the 2 highest paid safeties in the league, and then we'll just be phenomenal on the back end of this defense. Ron Rivera, welcome to DC. That'll thing. Or, maybe Gettleman, the Giants saddle up, even though they don't have a third round pick for reasons. They're like, okay, fine. You did it to us. We'll give you 36 for Anthony Harris, which, by the way, 36 in this draft, top of the second round, that would be a sexy ass pick, by the way. That'd be phenomenal, but no. But again, this report from Doogie, the leak had to come from one of the sides. It's nothing more than a negotiating tactic. So when you actually got to the source material, once you got past all the headline reading, you're like, okay, this is pretty standard in any negotiation, right? I mean, just like Everson's agent says, like, hey, we're taking our ball and going home. And then Everson said that really nice goodbye on Instagram. He could be back. He could. I mean, we talked about that yesterday. And oh, by the way, they have the same agency, Athletes First. Everson, Harris, as well as Trey Waynes, a bunch of other Vikings as well. But also, as we mentioned, Athletes First has negotiated Landon Collins' deal, Kevin Byard's deal. If they sound familiar, they're the 2 highest paid safeties in the league. So obviously the agency knows the market. They know what Anthony Harris is worth. They know what he can get on the open market as well. So I highly doubt that Anthony Harris is going to be open to taking a team-friendly deal for the Vikings, as some other players had before, especially as these negotiations get drawn out, especially as these negotiations get contentious. I'm sure he wasn't happy at all getting a franchise tag, because that really does limit him getting a long-term deal this offseason. Also, Anthony Harris is going to be 30 before you know it, too. So another year added on before he can get a long-term deal, that would be less than bueno. But it's going to be interesting, and I don't think anything significant is going to happen before the draft, and we'll see. Maybe safety's on the table for the Vikings in the draft. We'll see. But your thoughts, Anthony Harris, Vikings, lay us on him. Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. If you want to support the work, pull us up in the Venmo. Please give us a follow on social media as well. But until next time, Skull, production value.